declaration of performance is actually more important to get that document than to get the CE marking, because in the declaration of performance you find all the technical details of how the product meets the specification. And it has been our experience in the declaration of performance, I'm sorry that slide just seems to be gone off there, it has been our experience that we can be offered a declaration of performance by a contractor. It will be wide open as to what project it refers to. So for example, in one project recently we had a wall tile, and the declaration of performance for the contractor's proposal duly arrived in. And it said it was compliant with X, Y, and Z technical performance criteria for, was, that it was going to be stable, that it was going to be colour fast, that it was going to withstand impact, etc., etc. But actually when we looked at it and we went immediately to another supplier, a more reputable supplier, and we looked at their data and their declaration of performance, and you could see that the criteria that they were using between an Italian supplier and another supplier, they were totally different. In fact, the Italian supplier, this one, was completely out of date. And that gave us the opportunity to reject the tile and direct the contractor back to the specified tile. So declaration of performance is much more important than seeing a CE mark when you see the brand arrive on site. Within your specification, we would suggest that you study your declaration of performance and insert all of the performance criteria given in it into your specification. And that provides you with a benchmark when it comes to the contractor making the submittals. The next item I wanted to talk about was protecting the designer when the subcontractor designs. And I think this is hugely relevant in terms of trying to push design responsibility back onto the contractor when he starts making submittals for products and during the shop drawing process. Because it's certainly my experience that you never ever get offered something which is an improvement on what you might have specified in terms of technical performance, in terms of value, in terms of appearance. So we would suggest that you introduce within your tender documents a formal contractor submittal process so that you can understand the offer that's being made. The contractor will be a great exponent of, oh sure, I'll stick that in the Dropbox, there'll be 4 sheets of, here's the glossy brochure, and, silent on technical issues preferably. To control that to control how a contractor introduces all the various different alternative projects during the build process, one of the ways we do that is through a parity work schedule. In other words, we're controlling the program. So the contractor is required to list out every single item that he's proposing to insert into the contract, which is non-compliant or not equivalent or not the same as the specification, and then call out the time period that is going to give the design team in order to explore that. Now you'll find that on one particular project we have at the moment we have 48 submittals, 46 of them are not as per the specification. So there's a huge amount of time that has to be set off into the program in order to evaluate that. And frequently we find ourselves being obliging and saying, oh well, I look at it in 2 days instead of the 10 days I'm allowed. And sometimes that's just not a good plan. And it means that you are standing over products and stepping into a design role for the contractor's cheaper alternative, generally. So what we would do is that we would suggest that there would be a general submittal procedure which would be included in your tender documents as part of the works requirements, and which would say that you have the rules associated with making product submissions and how shop drawings might be procured. So we would determine the format, and by that I mean that we would describe whether it would be via Dropbox. We wouldn't entertain the concept of it being by multiple emails because chaos arises, and they start introducing pieces of technical documents which there's no consistency, there's no order to them. So the first thing that we would say is that there's a pro forma template, and the contractor has to name who the supplier is, what their licenses are, what their certificates are, what their address is, who has taken over the design role in specifying this alternative product, because you're not specifying it, somebody else is. And provide certificates and certificate submittals, a digital signature. We've had situations where we've had submittals and the person who signed the submittal becomes the unknown and can't be found person 5 years on. So that person must have the authority given to them by a director of the contracting company, so that we've got somebody who we can go back to if there's a problem.